The stars had watched humanity for thousands of years. They watched as humans learned to make fire. They watched as humans built cities and fought wars. They watched as humans split the atom and reached for the moon. And now, the stars were no longer just watching. Something was coming. Admiral Jake Porter stood on the bridge of the United Earth ship Defiance. His gray eyes looked out at the red surface of Mars below. He was a tall man, with short black hair and a face that rarely smiled. He had served in the military for 30 years. He had seen many things, but he had never seen anything like the ship that now floated before him. The alien vessel was massive. It was shaped like a silver teardrop, smooth and beautiful. It made human ships look like toys. Lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that seemed almost like breathing. Jake felt his heart beat faster, but his face showed nothing. "Admiral," said Commander Emma Wells, stepping beside him. She was younger than Jake, with sharp brown eyes and hair pulled back tight. "The alien ship is hailing us. They want to talk." Jake nodded slowly. "Let them through." The main screen flickered. Then a face appeared. It was not human. The creature had pale blue skin and large black eyes. Its head was smooth and elongated. When it spoke, its voice was calm and pleasant, like a teacher speaking to a child. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Velix of the Galactic Council. We represent 47 species from across the galaxy. We have watched your development with great interest. Today, we offer you a gift. We offer you protection." Jake said nothing. He just listened. Ambassador Velix continued. "The universe is dangerous. There are threats you cannot imagine, species that would destroy you without thought. But the Galactic Council offers safety. Join us, and you will be protected. You will have access to technology beyond your dreams. You will take your place among the stars." Emma leaned close to Jake. "Sounds too good to be true," she whispered. Jake agreed. He had learned long ago that nothing came free. "What do you want in return?" he asked. Velix's large eyes blinked slowly. "A small price. You must surrender your military vessels. Weapons cause fear and conflict. Without them, there can be peace. You must also accept population guidance. Your numbers grow too fast. This strains resources. And you must share your planet's minerals with the Council. A fair trade for eternal protection." The bridge went silent. Every officer stared at the screen. Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. "You want us to give up our weapons," Jake said. "You want to control how many children we have. You want our resources. And in exchange, you will protect us." "Correct," Velix said, smiling as if he had offered a wonderful gift. "Many species have accepted these terms. They live in peace and prosperity." Jake looked at Emma. She shook her head slightly. He looked at his crew. Their faces were hard with anger. Then Jake looked back at the alien ambassador. "No," Jake said. The word hung in the air. Simple, final. Velix's smile faded. His large eyes widened. "I do not understand." Perhaps the translation was unclear. "We offer you protection from—" "I understood you perfectly," Jake said. "The answer is no. Humanity will not surrender its weapons. Humanity will not accept population control. Humanity will not give away its resources. We decline your offer." For a long moment, Velix said nothing. His blue face showed confusion, then disbelief. In 10,000 years of galactic history, no species had ever refused the Council's offer. Not once. Every civilization, from the mighty Keth to the gentle Florians, had accepted. Some with joy, some with fear, but all had accepted. "Admiral Porter," Velix said slowly, "I do not think you understand your position. Your species is young. Your technology is primitive. The galaxy is vast and cruel. Without our protection, you will not survive." Jake stepped closer to the screen. "Maybe, maybe not. But we would rather face the galaxy free than live as slaves under your protection. Slaves? Velix looked hurt. We do not use such words. We offer guidance. Partnership. You offer chains wrapped in pretty words, Jake replied. We recognize them. Humanity has seen tyrants before. We have fought them. We have defeated them. We will not kneel to another. No matter how many stars it controls. Velix's face hardened. The pleasant mask slipped away. Beneath it was something cold. You are making a grave mistake, human. The Council does not accept rejection. There will be consequences. Then there will be consequences, Jake said. But our answer remains the same. No. The screen went dark. The alien ship hung in space for a moment longer, then turned and vanished into the darkness between stars. Emma let out a long breath. Well, sir, I think we just made some enemies. Jake nodded. Better enemies than slaves. 3 days later, Jake stood in a conference room on Earth. President David Cole sat at the head of a long table. He was a calm man with white hair and steady hands. Around him sat generals, scientists, and world leaders. They had all seen the recording of Jake's conversation with Velix. The Council has sent 17 more requests for negotiation, President Cole said. Each time, they offer slightly better terms. Each time, they become more confused when we refuse. General Lisa Harris, a woman with iron gray hair and cold blue eyes, leaned forward. They don't understand us. They think we're being foolish. They think eventually we will realize our weakness and come begging. Will we? Asked one of the politicians. No, President Cole said firmly. I have read the reports. I have seen what happens to species that accept Council protection. Their weapons are taken. Their populations are controlled. Their resources are drained. They become servants, kept alive only as long as they remain useful. That is not protection. That is farming. The room fell silent. Then we prepare for war, General Harris said. President Cole nodded. We prepare for war. We build. We train. We make ourselves ready. The Council thinks we are primitive. Let them think so. They have never faced a species like humanity. They have never faced a people who would rather die free than live in chains. Jake looked out the window at the blue sky of Earth. Somewhere beyond that sky, 47 alien species were deciding humanity's fate. They had technology beyond imagination. They had ships that could cross galaxies. They had power that made nuclear weapons look like firecrackers. But they did not have what humanity had. They did not have the fire that burned in human hearts. The stubborn refusal to surrender. The madness that made humans fight impossible odds and sometimes win. The aliens wanted an answer. Humanity had given one. No. And that single word would shake the galaxy. The Council chamber was ancient. Its walls had stood for 8,000 years. Its floors had been walked by emperors and warlords, scientists, and priests. 1,000 peace treaties had been signed beneath its domed ceiling. 100 wars had ended here. But never in all those years had the chamber felt so afraid. High Chancellor Morath stood at the center of the great hall. He was tall and thin, with skin the color of dried blood and eyes like yellow flames. His species, the Vorath, had ruled the Council for 300 years. They were politicians. They were schemers. They knew how to control other species with words and promises and careful manipulation. But today, Morath did not feel in control. Around him sat representatives from all 47 species. The Keth warriors with their armored skin and tusked faces. The Florians with their delicate flower-like bodies. The Sindari with their many eyes and calculating minds. All of them were talking. All of them were afraid. Silence, Morath commanded. His voice echoed through the chamber. The talking stopped. We are here to discuss the human problem. Ambassador Velix stepped forward. He looked tired. He had spent weeks trying to negotiate with humanity. Each attempt had failed. High Chancellor, I have done everything possible. I offered them technology. I offered them medicine that could cure any disease. I offered them a seat on the council. They refused everything. Then you failed, growled General Kreeth of the Keth warrior clans. His voice was like grinding stone. Perhaps we should send someone who knows how to fight instead of talk. War is not the answer, said Priestess Bloom of the Florians. Her voice was soft as wind through leaves. Violence creates only more violence. Perhaps if we show them kindness. They do not want kindness, Velix interrupted. They do not want anything we offer. Their admiral looked at me with such contempt. As if I were the primitive one. As if I were the threat. Morath raised his hand for silence. Tannix, give us your report. From the shadows stepped a small creature with gray skin and large black eyes. Tannix was an intelligence officer, one of the best in the galaxy. His job was to study other species, to find their weaknesses, to understand how to defeat them. I have studied humanity, Tannix said. His voice was quiet but carried through the entire chamber. I have studied their history, their culture, their biology. What I found disturbs me greatly. He pressed a device in his hand. Holographic images appeared in the air above the council. Images of Earth. Images of humans. Humanity is approximately 200,000 years old as a species, Tannix said. In that time, they have fought over 15,000 wars among themselves. Not against other species. Against each other. Murmurs of horror rippled through the chamber. The Florians covered their faces. Their entire history is violence, Tannix continued. They fight over land. They fight over resources. They fight over ideas. They fight over gods. They even fight over the color of their skin. When they have no enemies, they create enemies. When they have peace, they grow restless and start new conflicts. Savages, someone whispered. Perhaps, Tannix said, but savages with terrifying potential. Look at their technological progress. New images appeared. Primitive humans with stone tools. Then bronze swords. Then guns. Then tanks. Then aircraft. Then nuclear explosions. In just 10,000 years, they went from farming to splitting atoms. In just 200 years, they went from riding horses to walking on their moon. No species in our records has ever advanced so quickly. They evolve their weapons faster than we can track. General Kreeth laughed. They still use chemical rockets. Their ships are slow and weak. We could crush them in a day. Could we? Tannix asked. He pressed his device again. This is a human nuclear weapon. It is primitive by our standards. But they have built over 13,000 of them. They point many of these weapons at each other, at their own cities, ready to fire at any moment. The chamber went silent. They are willing to destroy themselves, Tannix said. Think about that. They live every day knowing that their own species could end their world in fire. And they accept this. They adapted to it. They make jokes about it. He paused. What do you think such beings will do when faced with an external threat? How hard will they fight? How much will they sacrifice? Morath felt cold spread through his body. What are you saying? I am saying that humanity is not like other species, Tannix replied. Other species surrender when defeat is certain. Other species choose survival over pride. Humans do not think this way. Their history shows that they will fight to the last individual. They will burn their own cities rather than let enemies take them. They will die standing rather than live kneeling. Then we offer better terms, Priestess Bloom said desperately. We give them what they want. They want freedom, Tannix said. Complete freedom. They will accept nothing less. Any attempt to control them, however gentle, will be met with resistance. High Chancellor Morath straightened his robes. He had ruled the council through dozens of crises. He had brought rebellious species to heel, with clever words and careful pressure. Humanity would be no different. They were just another primitive species that needed to learn its place. We will establish a quarantine, Morath declared. No species will contact humanity. No trade. No communication. We will isolate them in their small solar system. Eventually, they will realize they need us. Eventually, they will come begging for the terms they rejected. General Kreeth nodded approvingly. And if they don't, then we will show them our strength, Morath said. Not war. Just a demonstration. When they see our fleet, when they understand the power we command, they will surrender. Every species does. Eventually, but across the chamber, Tannix shook his head slowly. He had studied humanity more closely than anyone. He had read their stories and their songs. He had watched recordings of their wars and their speeches. He knew something that Morath did not. Humans did not surrender. They never had. And when the Council's great fleet finally arrived at human space, when 500 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy faced 30 primitive human vessels, Tannix would remember this moment. He would remember the arrogance in Morath's voice, the certainty that humanity would break, but that was still months away. For now, the Council felt safe. For now, they believed their power was absolute. For now, they looked at the small blue planet called Earth and saw only a nuisance to be managed. They did not see the storm that was coming. They did not see the factories working day and night, the shipyards building new vessels, the scientists creating new weapons, the soldiers training without rest. On Earth, General Lisa Harris stood before a wall of screens showing the entire solar system. Every asteroid was being mined, every moon was being fortified, every ship was being armed. How long until they come? Asked Commander Sam Mitchell beside her. Months. Maybe a year. Harris turned to face him. Her eyes were hard as steel. But when they do come, we will be ready. We've spent our whole history fighting each other. Now we finally have a real enemy. And God help them when they realize what that means. Across the galaxy, a clock was ticking. The Council did not know it yet, but they had just made the worst mistake in their long history. They had given humanity time to prepare. 6 months passed like water through fingers. The galaxy held its breath. The Council waited for humanity to break. Humanity did not break. Instead, something far worse happened. Humanity grew. Captain Tom Reed stood on the bridge of the explorer ship Pioneer. He was a young man with wild brown hair and eyes full of wonder. Behind him, the blue dot of Earth had long since disappeared. Ahead lay the unknown, stars that no human had ever visited, worlds that no human had ever touched. Captain, said his navigator, Lieutenant Amy Park. She was small but fierce, with quick hands and quicker thoughts. We're picking up something strange on the sensors. There's a solar system ahead. 8 planets. The 4th one looks promising. Tom smiled. Let's take a look. The Pioneer was one of 50 explorer ships that humanity had sent beyond the quarantine zone. The Council had told them to stay in their solar system. Humanity had ignored this completely. Every week, new ships left Earth. Every week, they went farther. The 4th planet was beautiful. Green forests, blue oceans, mountains that touched the clouds. It was empty of intelligent life, but it was perfect for colonization. Mark it down, Tom said. Humanity just got a new home. 3 weeks later, the first colony ships arrived. Thousands of humans poured onto the new world. They built shelters. They planted crops. They named the planet New Hope. And they kept building. Far away, on the Council homeworld, Tannix stared at his reports with growing horror. They're not staying in their system, he said to anyone who would listen. They're spreading. 12 new colonies in 6 months. They're claiming systems we ignored for thousands of years. High Chancellor Morath waved his hand dismissively. Empty systems, worthless rocks. Let them have their little colonies. They are still isolated from real civilization. You don't understand, Tannix said. They work constantly. Our species rest. We take time for leisure. We sleep for long periods. Humans don't stop. They work in shifts, day and night. Their factories never close. Their construction never pauses. They multiply their strength every month. Exaggeration, Morath said. But there was doubt in his yellow eyes now. Back on Earth, Dr. Kate Morgan sat in her laboratory, surrounded by screens and data. She was a xenobiologist, an expert in alien life. For months, she had been studying intercepted council transmissions. What she had found made her blood run cold. "They call it protection," Kate said to General Harris, who had come to hear her findings. "But look at the data. Every species that joined the council follows the same pattern." She pulled up charts and graphs. First, they surrender their weapons. The council promises to defend them. Then, population controls are introduced. Birth rates drop. Then, resource extraction increases. The council takes more and more. Finally, the species population starts to decline. Slowly at first, then faster. General Harris's face was stone. "They're being farmed." "Yes," Kate said quietly. "The council doesn't destroy species. They drain them. Slowly. Over centuries. By the time anyone realizes what's happening, it's too late. The species is too weak to resist." "How many?" "At least 20 species have gone extinct under council protection. Others are dying slowly. The Florians have lost half their population in 300 years. They don't even realize it. They think it's natural." Harris stood up. "The president needs to see this." 3 days later, President Cole addressed the United Nations. Every human on Earth and in the colonies watched. His voice was steady, but his words were fire. "We now know the truth about the Galactic Council. They are not protectors. They are predators. They do not offer partnership. They offer a slow death. Every species that has trusted them has been betrayed. We will not be the next victims." Across the galaxy, council monitoring stations picked up the broadcast. They translated it. They sent it to their leaders. And for the first time, some council species began to wonder if the humans were right. On a distant space station, Ambassador Velix made one final attempt. He requested a meeting with any human representative who would speak to him. To his surprise, Commander Sam Mitchell agreed to meet. They sat across from each other in a small gray room. Velix looked tired. His blue skin had lost its glow. His large eyes were filled with something that might have been sadness. "I do not understand your species," Velix said. "We offer you everything. Safety. Knowledge. Peace. Why do you refuse?" Sam leaned back in his chair. He was quiet for a long moment. "Let me tell you a story," he finally said. "Hundreds of years ago, on Earth, there were people called colonizers. They came to other lands with gifts and promises. They said they wanted to help. They said they brought civilization. They said they offered protection." Velix nodded. "This sounds reasonable." "It wasn't," Sam said. "Those colonizers took everything. They destroyed cultures. They enslaved people. They committed terrible crimes, all while calling themselves saviors." He leaned forward. "We know this story, Ambassador. We have lived it. We have been both the colonizers and the colonized. We recognize the pattern, and we will never let it happen again." "We are not your colonizers," Velix protested. "No," Sam agreed. "You're worse. You're smarter. You're more patient. You take centuries to do what our colonizers did in decades. But the result is the same: submission, exploitation, death." Velix had no response. He opened his mouth several times, but no words came out. Sam stood up to leave. At the door, he paused and looked back. "Tell your council something for me. Humanity will not send another message. We will not attend another meeting. We will not negotiate, discuss, or debate. The next time we communicate with the council, it will be through our actions. And I promise you, Ambassador, those actions will speak louder than any words." Then he walked out, leaving Velix alone in the empty room. When Velix returned to the council homeworld, he was a changed being. He reported everything to High Chancellor Morath. The silence. The cold determination. The absolute refusal to compromise. "They are not afraid of us," Velix said. I looked into that human's eyes. There was no fear, only patience. "They are waiting for something." "Waiting for what?" Morath demanded. Velix shook his head. I don't know. But whatever it is, I believe we should be the ones who are afraid. Uh, um, Morath dismissed this as cowardice. He called for a show of force. A fleet would be assembled, the largest in galactic history. It would go to human space and demonstrate the Council's power. Surely, when humans saw 500 warships darkening their skies, they would finally understand their place. But Tanix, watching from the shadows, knew the truth. He had studied human history. He knew what happened when you backed them into corners. He knew about places called Thermopylae and Stalingrad and 100 other battles where humans had faced impossible odds. They didn't surrender. They fought harder. The fleet was assembled. The orders were given. 500 ships began their long journey toward human space. And on Earth, Admiral Jake Porter received the news with a smile. Finally, he said, "Let them come." The Council fleet was beautiful in a terrible way. 500 ships moving through space like a swarm of silver predators. Each ship was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their weapons could crack planets. Their shields could stop nuclear explosions. They had conquered 1,000 worlds without losing a single battle. Fleet Commander Vorax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Divine Justice. He was a Keth warrior, chosen for this mission because of his reputation for crushing rebellions quickly. His tusked face showed only contempt as he looked at the distant human colony of Proxima Centauri. "Scan the system," he ordered. His officers obeyed. The results came back almost instantly. "Commander," one officer said, his voice confused, "we detect only 30 human ships. They are positioned near the colony's main planet." Vorax laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound. 30 ships against 500? They are either brave or stupid, perhaps both. He opened a communication channel. "Human vessels. This is Fleet Commander Vorax of the Galactic Council. You are outmatched and surrounded. Surrender immediately, and your lives will be spared. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have 1 minute to respond." The response came in 30 seconds. It was not what Vorax expected. Admiral Jake Porter's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, almost bored. "Commander Vorax, thank you for coming all this way. We've been waiting for you." "Waiting?" Vorax frowned. "You knew we were coming? Of course, you're not exactly subtle." Jake glanced at something off-screen. "I have a counteroffer. Turn your fleet around and leave. Never return to human space. Do this, and we will let you go in peace." Vorax's laughter echoed through his bridge. His crew joined in. "You threaten us? With 30 ships? Human? You are insane." "Maybe," Jake admitted. "But I'm giving you one chance. Take it or don't. The choice is yours." "Your minute is up," Vorax snarled. "All ships, attack formation. Destroy them all." The Council fleet surged forward. 500 ships. Weapons charging. Shields at full power. They moved with practiced precision, spreading out to surround the tiny human fleet. This would be over in minutes. Then the humans did something unexpected. Instead of retreating or surrendering, they charged. 30 ships flew directly at 500. It looked like suicide. "They're insane," Vorax muttered. "All ships. Fire at will." Weapons blazed, the space between the fleets filled with energy beams and missiles. But the human ships were fast, faster than they should have been. They twisted and dodged and weaved through the attacks like dancers. "They're jamming our targeting systems," an officer shouted. "Our weapons can't lock on." "Impossible," Vorax said. "Human technology is primitive." "Commander, look." Vorax looked, and for the first time in his long military career, he felt fear. The human ships weren't just dodging. They were releasing something. Thousands of small objects poured from their hulls. Drones, missiles, bombs. They scattered in every direction, filling space with chaos. The first drone hit a council ship. It wasn't a big explosion, but it was aimed perfectly at the ship's shield generator. The shields dropped. A second drone followed, hitting the engine. The ship went dark. They're targeting our weak points, Vorax realized. How do they know where to strike? Thank you for watching. No one answered. No one knew. In the chaos of battle, Lieutenant Amy Park flew her small fighter through the debris of destroyed ships. Her hands moved across the controls with impossible speed. Her eyes tracked multiple targets at once. In her mind, she wasn't fighting aliens. She was playing the most important video game of her life. Target locked, she whispered. Firing. Her missiles struck a council cruiser's command bridge. The ship veered wildly, crashing into another vessel beside it. 2 kills with 1 shot. That's 7, Amy counted. No, wait, 8. Across the battlefield, human tactics shocked the council forces. They had expected a conventional battle. Lines of ships firing at each other until one side broke. That was how galactic warfare worked. That was how it had always worked. Humans didn't fight that way. They used suicide drones that flew into engine exhaust ports. They used electronic attacks that crashed navigation systems. They used psychological warfare, broadcasting surrender demands mixed with human music at deafening volumes. They rammed damaged ships into enemy formations. They did things no civilized species would ever consider. Commander Emma Wells coordinated the battle from Jake's side. Her voice was calm as she issued orders. Group 7. Target their communication ships. If they can't talk to each other, they can't coordinate. Group 3. Focus on their flagship. Make them scared. They're already scared, Jake observed, watching a council battleship flee in panic. Good. Make them more scared. 3 hours into the battle, the council fleet was in chaos. Ships crashed into each other trying to escape. Commanders screamed contradicting orders. Warriors who had never known defeat suddenly faced destruction. Vorax's flagship shook as another wave of drones struck. Half his bridge crew was dead. His beautiful ship was burning. Commander, his last surviving officer said, "We have lost 240 ships. The humans have lost 3. 3? Vorax couldn't believe it. Only 3? They're not fighting like we expected. They adapt too quickly. Every time we counter their tactics, they change tactics again." Vorax looked at the battle display. His mighty fleet was being torn apart by 30 primitive ships. It was impossible. It shouldn't be happening. And yet it was. "Sound the retreat," Vorax ordered. The words tasted like poison in his mouth. All ships. Withdraw immediately. The council fleet ran. They ran like prey, fleeing predators. Ships scattered in every direction, desperate to escape the nightmare they had flown into. By the time the last council vessel jumped away from the system, 340 ships had been destroyed. The rest were damaged, demoralized, and broken. The humans had lost 4 ships total. On the bridge of the Defiance, Jake Porter watched the enemy flee. His crew was cheering. Some were crying with relief, but Jake felt no joy. Only grim satisfaction. "Get me a channel to Earth," he said. "President Cole needs to know." An hour later, footage of the battle reached every human colony. People watched in amazement as 30 ships defeated 500. They watched Lieutenant Amy Park destroy 11 enemy vessels alone. They watched council battleships run in fear from human fighters. Amy Park became a hero overnight. Reporters asked her how she felt after the battle. Her answer was broadcast across the galaxy. "They shouldn't have come," she said simply. "We were just defending our home." That night, on 100 human worlds, people celebrated. They had faced the greatest military power in the galaxy and won. They had proven that they could not be bullied. They had shown the universe what humanity could do when pushed. And across the galaxy, in the Great Council Chamber, High Chancellor Morath watched the battle footage in silence. His yellow eyes showed something no one had ever seen in them before. Fear. Real fear. The humans had done more than win a battle. They had shattered a myth. The myth of council invincibility. The myth that primitive species could not stand against the great civilizations. The myth that enough ships and enough guns would always guarantee victory. That myth was dead now, and something new was rising to take its place. Something called humanity. The council chamber had never been so quiet. 300 representatives from 47 species sat in stunned silence. Their invincible fleet was destroyed. Their greatest warriors had fled in terror. Everything they believed about their power was a lie. High Chancellor Morath stood at the center of the chamber. His red skin had gone pale. His yellow eyes no longer burned with confidence. He looked old. He looked defeated. "We must find a solution," he said, but his voice lacked strength. "The humans cannot be allowed to." "To what?" General Kreth interrupted. The great Keth warrior rose from his seat, his armored body trembling with rage. "To defeat us? They already have. To humiliate us? Already done. To prove that your precious council is weak and pathetic? The whole galaxy saw it happen. General, please. No." Kreth's voice was like thunder. "For 300 years, my people followed the council because we believed in its power. We surrendered our honor because you promised us security. And now I see the truth. You are not powerful. You are parasites. You feed on the weak and run from the strong." He turned to face the other representatives. "The Keth are done with this council. We will seek alliance with the humans. They have proven themselves warriors. They have earned our respect." The chamber erupted. Species that had been allies for centuries now screamed at each other. Old grudges surfaced. Hidden resentments exploded. The council was tearing itself apart. In the chaos, Morath slipped away to his private chambers. There, he activated a hidden console. Deep beneath the council homeworld, ancient machines began to wake. "If the council falls," Morath whispered, "then everyone falls." The weapon was old. Older than the council itself. It had been built by a species long extinct, designed to destroy entire solar systems. Morath had kept it secret for centuries, a final option if everything else failed. Now he would use it. He would destroy Earth, destroy humanity, and then rebuild the council from the ashes. But Morath was not alone. Agent Mike Torres had been on the council homeworld for 6 weeks. He had entered disguised as a servant, one of thousands of nameless workers who kept the great city running. He had watched. He had waited. He had learned. When Morath activated the weapon, Mike followed him. Through secret passages, down ancient tunnels, into chambers that hadn't seen visitors in 1,000 years. The weapon control room was vast. Strange machines hummed with terrible power. Morath stood at the central console, entering commands with shaking fingers. "Step away from the console." Morath spun. Mike stood in the doorway. A human weapon aimed at the Chancellor's head. "How?" Morath gasped. "How did you get here? This place is secret. No one knows." "Humans are very good at finding secrets," Mike said. "We're also very good at stopping people who want to kill us." "You cannot stop this," Morath said. "In 10 minutes, your precious Earth will be cosmic dust. Nothing can prevent it now." Mike smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Actually, that's not true. I've been here for 3 hours. I already disabled the weapon. Those machines you're hearing? They're not powering up. They're shutting down." Morath looked at his console. Red lights flashed everywhere. Error messages filled the screens. The ancient weapon was dying. Its systems corrupted beyond repair. "No," Morath whispered. "No, no, no." "Yes," Mike said. "Also, I sent a signal to our fleet. They should be here in about 20 minutes. I'd suggest you start thinking about your surrender terms." When Admiral Jake Porter walked into the council chamber, the scene was almost peaceful. Most species had fled. Only a handful remained, including Morath, who sat slumped in his chair, all fight gone from him. Jake looked around the ancient room. Thousands of years of galactic history had happened here. Treaties and wars, alliances and betrayals, the rise and fall of empires. "High Chancellor Morath," Jake said, his voice echoing through the empty chamber. "On behalf of the United Earth government, I accept your surrender." Morath said nothing. He couldn't even look up. Jake walked to the center of the chamber, where ambassadors had stood for centuries. He looked at the remaining representatives. The Florians, trembling with fear. The Sindari, calculating their next move. A few others, uncertain and lost. Your council spent 10,000 years conquering the weak, Jake said. You took their weapons. You controlled their populations. You drained their resources. You called it protection, but it was slavery. You never imagined that one day, you might face someone who would fight back. He paused, letting the words sink in. Humanity didn't refuse diplomacy because we are primitive. We refused because we saw through your lies. We recognized what you really were, and we decided that we would rather face extinction than accept your chains. Priestess Bloom of the Florians spoke up, her voice barely a whisper. What happens now? Will you destroy us as we plan to destroy you? Jake looked at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. No, humanity is not like the Council. We will not become the thing we fought against. He gestured, and several human officers entered carrying documents. Here are the terms. The old Council is dissolved. In its place, we will establish a new alliance. The Stellar Alliance. Every species will be free. No population controls. No resource tribute. No forced disarmament. You will govern yourselves as you see fit. And humanity? A Sindari representative asked carefully. What role will you play? We will be guardians, Jake said. Not rulers. We will protect the alliance from external threats. We will ensure that no species tries to enslave another. But we will not control your lives or your futures. Those belong to you. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, Priestess Bloom stood. Tears flowed from her many eyes. For 300 years, my people have been dying. Our population falls. Our children grow fewer. We thought it was natural. We didn't know the Council was draining us. She bowed her head. On behalf of the Florians, I accept humanity's terms, and I thank you. One by one, other species joined. The Sindari, several smaller races, even some Keth warriors who had remained to watch. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy transformed. Species that had been controlled for millennia tasted freedom for the first time. Populations began to grow again. Old cultures, suppressed for centuries, came back to life. And everywhere, a new saying spread. When children asked about the humans, their parents told them the same thing. Never corner a human. They don't know how to quit. 1 year later, Admiral Jake Porter stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting Earth. Commander Emma Wells stood beside him. Below them, the blue planet turned slowly. Beautiful and alive. Do you think we did the right thing? Emma asked. Jake considered the question. I think we did the only thing we could do. When someone offers you chains disguised as gifts, you have two choices. Accept them and die slowly, or fight and maybe die quickly. He smiled slightly. Humanity chose to fight. We've always chosen to fight. And now we're guardians of the galaxy, Emma said. That's a lot of responsibility. Yes, Jake agreed. But I think we're ready. We've spent our whole history preparing for this. Even if we didn't know it, all those wars we fought against each other taught us how to survive, how to adapt, how to win against impossible odds. He turned from the window. The galaxy thought we were primitive. They were wrong. We are exactly what we needed to be. And now, for the first time in human history, we have something worth protecting beyond ourselves. Emma nodded. The stars, Jake repeated, and everyone in them. Far below, on the planet that had given birth to the most stubborn species in the galaxy, people went about their daily lives. They worked, and laughed, and loved, and dreamed. Most of them never thought about the war they had won, or the empire they had defeated. But in schools across Earth and every human colony, children learned a new history. Not just the history of their planet, but the history of their species among the stars. And they learned the most important lesson humanity had ever taught the universe. Freedom is never given. It must be taken, and once taken, it must be defended forever.